Today, Landmark College is doing pretty well. Other small colleges in rural environments in the Northeast have closed. Landmark College is strong. We have a really, really high-quality residential program. We have a growing LC online program. We've even started a micro-campus in San Mateo, California. We're doing all right, but there have been some tough years too, even recently. And of course, at the beginning, when people like Chuck Strauch had a vision for this place, it was 1985, Chuck. Those were tough years too, and it took courage and vision. And then it took support over those years. Chuck Strauch and others helped us get through the tough years recently. And we're here today as a strong institution. What's that saying? We can only see so far because we stand on the shoulders of giants. Is that Newton or something? Chuck Strauch is a giant for Landmark College. Come on up, Chuck. Tell us some stuff.
You know that I have my watch in my hands here. I've been told that I can't talk for more than 10 minutes. 10 minutes for me is impossible. When I get to talk about Landmark College, it's, somebody mentioned tears in my eyes. I'll try to do the best I can to give you kind of a brief history of what a great place this is. First of all, I want to just say that in this audience, in most audiences, the most important people are not just the faculty and the staff, but a tribute to moms. The mothers that have decided that this is the place for their offspring to come. I'll tell you just a story. First of all, why am I here? My son, Charlie, if you could stand up, please. Right. Class of '85. When he was here, there were only two dorms. They were called Dorm 1 and Dorm 2. So that's how we started the college. All right, so first of all, I have to say most people do not realize the foundation of this college came from Landmark School, which is in Pride's Crossing. Anybody here not know about that, or this is the first you've heard it? All right, so Chad Drake, referred to often as Charles Drake, but I refer to him as Chad because he's definitely one of the most inspiring people I've ever met. Started this college, but I will tell you that my son, Charlie, a story that I know that those have heard it before, is very, very difficult for me to get through it without shedding a tear. So I want to apologize for that, to be blunt. In 1978, 79, somewhere in that ballpark, must have been that because Charlie was 15 years old, we decided to send Charlie to Landmark School, and that was the story in itself. And because he was not doing well in the school, he was selected by a number of other, by the faculty and also by Chad Drake, who started a program called Watermark. And that was a ship that was he bought for it was a 165-foot schooner. There were 43 people on the boat. There were a crew of 15 or so, 28 students, and it was a remarkable program. It was sent away. If anybody's read the Dana story, 2 years before the mast, a young guy who went off. My son, Charlie, was 15 years old. The last thing in the world that my wife and I ever thought was a good thing was to have my kid go off from local school to a boarding school. He joined the Watermark program. As usual, when you send your child, and we were living in California. To make a long story short, Charlie got on the plane and flew to what was then Idlewild Airport and JFK, And I'm sitting in my office, and I got a call from my son. He said, Dad, this is your son, Charlie. I said, no crap. Right? Really? Wow. He said, yeah. He said, I don't know why you have sent me off. He said, but you will never see me again. And this is absolutely true. And thank God there was, as usual you expect, a parent, Carolyn Oliver, if anybody you know, was standing there. She was not on the Watermark program, but she was there. And she got on the stand and said, Mr. Strauch said, don't worry, everything is fine. I said, oh, yeah, really? Oh, no problem. My son has just told me I'm never going to see you again, right? So anyway, he gets on the ship. And again, believe me, I could drag this story out. And we got a call at 3 o'clock in the morning. And the captain of the ship was Steve Wedlock. And he said, and my son was on the phone, and he said, Charlie, he said, Dad, you're not going to believe a word I have to tell you. He said, we just came, 165-foot schooner. All the lifeboats went overside. We came from Amsterdam over to landing, where was it, Charlie? In Dover, right, in England, right? And I said, but, and I said, all right, whatever, and what's the point? He said, well, I was the only, this is the truth, only student who had not gotten sick. And he said, I want to tell you that, he said, it was the greatest experience I've ever had in my life. And needless to say, I said, well, at 3 o'clock in the morning in California, you're hearing the story, this is that. But I can tell you that that was a turnaround time for my son, Charlie. Move on to the next story about Landmark and its beginning. Chad was again, the headmaster at Landmark School and had a board, and I was in my second board meeting. He invited me to come on the board. Oh, by the way, all of the board members were at least 15, 20 years older than I was, and they were, let's say, folks, the pillars of the community, and I was not the pillar of the community. I was the only guy from California who was not part of this program. 2 hours before the call, or the board meeting, my second board meeting, Chad gave me a call and he said, this is not going to be a good board meeting. And I said, why not? He said, because he said, I've taken $500 and or $500,000 and bought Wyndham College in Putney, Vermont. True story. I said, well, what? And he said, yeah. He said, yeah. I said, well, Chad, we never talked about that. He said, that's right, exactly. He said, now I'm going to tell you that's what to be the topic of conversation will be at the board. And I said, so all the other board members have none of them ever heard of it? No? Okay. I said, okay. What do you want me to do? And he said, I want you to support everything I tell you. And I said, no problems, Chad, right? Haven't seen the college, no ideas. Okay. $500,000, what's that? No big deal. So he goes before the meeting and he makes the presentation. And again, trying every way I can to keep my story short, one of the board members said, Chad, you can't do this. And Chad said, but I did. And that, to me, is the story of Landmark College. So it's a remarkable thing. And it is, and there's every ounce of truth behind it. There isn't any gilding the lily at all about this. I was just blown away. I said, actually after the meeting, he said, I'd like you to help me. He said, I've got a young guy, his name is Doug Atkins, and he's going to help me take the college and get it up on his feet. And I said, well, what's the problem with the college? He said, well, you're going to get a chance to see that when you go. And many of you, if I know, heard the story about, and we could talk about whether there was 3 feet of water or 5 feet or 20 that was sitting in what's the administrative building over there, the conference center, what I think of as the conference center. And I can assure you, I walked in and there was one hell of a lot of water sitting in the basement of that place. And I'm saying, Chad, where are we going to get the money to fix this place? And he said, don't worry. He said, you're going to help me. And And I said, okay, that's fine. And oh, by the way, I give a lot of credit to Diane Disney Miller, her Walt Disney's daughter, who I think gave $1.5 million. I didn't have quite that amount of money to give, but I did give some. And we put together a board. And what I would say out of this story about Chad, and then I'll finish, is that, first of all, the one thing I want to say about Chad was that as a headmaster, he invented the word no whining. Whenever he would get up in front and talk about any of the Landmark students, he would say to them, look, I don't want to hear anything about, oh my, woe is me, I've got all these problems, and although those days we didn't call them learning differences, it's learning disabilities. He said, I want to hear about your disability. He said, if that's the first word out of your mouth, you got to tell everybody about how you're this, then you're not at the right place. So what we don't do at Landmark is whine about our he said, what we have here are faculty that are people going to absolutely make sure every day that you don't feel sorry for yourself. So what did this guy have? He had the 3 qualities of leadership. He had the vision, of course, to understand what he had, and I'll explain that in a minute. And the second thing is he was a risk taker from the word go, and he had the courage to do things that most other people wouldn't do. That is, if you will, the story of him. And this guy was a remarkable guy. I kept track of him. He kept track of me until he passed away. And he was truly a mentor for me, and something I can tell you that I will never, a friendship that I will never forget. Okay, so to move on, I will just tell you that if I look at my business career, I've been involved with a lot of companies, frankly, been CEO of several public companies, and I have, therefore, a fair amount of experience of understanding how organizations work and how the best people perform in the world. And I will tell you unequivocally, my association with Landmark far, far surpasses any of the quality of what I have seen. If you take one word and you think about Landmark, it's called impact. The word impact in terms on people's lives and what this place has done is beyond freaking believable to me. And I think we all just have to give a huge hand for the faculty and the staff that are here today. Peter, 10 minutes. All right, Q&A. So does anybody have any questions that you want to ask about me, about Landmark, or do you have any remarks and comments to make about Landmark? Yes, ma'am.
Well, was liberal studies the only major you started with, or did you start with a couple different majors?
Yeah, you'll have to get, there you go.
Oh. Was liberal studies the only major you started with, or did you do other majors besides that?
Yes, it was mostly liberal studies. There wasn't even a degree performed. It was not an accredited college. We had to work on accreditation as the school gets started. So the answer is just mostly liberal arts. And my son graduated. He didn't get a diploma. You just got up and gave the speech. Is that still going on at graduation? Yep. I certainly hope so. All right, next question. Yes, sir.
When you and the other founders started the school and had the vision, did you ever, in your imagination, think where it would end up today?
Not, just a great question, not even remote a thought. Not even any thought that what I'm seeing here today would have ever been part of it. It's just an amazing thing. Every time I come back, I see what's going on. I've attended this session today about the career folks that are basically helping Landmarks. We didn't have that when we started the college. Wasn't even remotely a part of what we did. Bottom line, we were taking mom's kids, important, right, Mom? Mom's kids that would come to this college and be entrusted to the faculty and to the students and the staff. And I can't help but to this story. Christy, I know that you're please don't tell me that this didn't true, all right? All right, so sometime in the 90 period, the board met actually in the room upstairs. Christy Herbert came to make a presentation and came with her laptop. And the laptop looked like vintage 1965. There was a lot of difficulty getting the laptop to talk to the screen. You know, how many times have we heard that? You know, oh, I get you push this button and all the above. At the end, one of the trustees said, Christy, what's that piece of, antique thing you have there? She said, well, it's my computer. And said, what? It's your computer? Yeah. He said, it's my laptop. And I said, you mean the faculty doesn't have the laptops? We raised $165,000 in that meeting. And 3 weeks later, we had all the faculty had laptops. Right. Okay. Any other questions before I get the hook and get out of here? Yes, ma'am.
How did you get the water out of the administrative building?
How did I what?
How did you finally?
I have no clue. We had a guy by the name of Doug Atkins, who was a remarkable guy, still a friend of mine. He also was a second mate on the Charlie's on the to Vega the program, and he was Chad's guy. He was a Naval Academy engineer, and I have no idea the guy pulled off miracles, and with basically nothing. I mean, I think our total budget, in addition to the $500,000 that we bought the school with, or Chad bought the school with, mind you, a loan that was made with the school guaranteeing the loan, which wasn't a very happy moment for the board of the school, and but I would say somewhere in the ballpark of $2.5 to $3 million. Oh, by the way, we had white paint on the brick buildings, and that was one of the first things we did was remove the white paint so we could get the original way of the brick feeling that the campus had. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
I wanted to know what you learned in your leadership at Landmark that you took over as a transferable skill to business. You said you learned a lot of things here, and you saw that the school had such an impact on its customer base, us, the students and parents. What did you take to your business life that you might have learned here?
All right. First of all, resourcefulness. The ability to get by on a little amount of money, the fiscal responsibility felt from the ground up. And I think most important which in fairness in the business world doesn't exist because it often is the other way around, is that the impact that the students had in their needs on the faculty and the staff and the feeling that existed, that the relationship that existed between the faculty and the students. And I would say that I haven't seen that as much as I would like to see it in the business world, is that, the camaraderie that exists, the relationship that exists between the faculty, the staff, and the students who are here and in the hands of very capable people. Yes, sir.
Given the success you've had in your career and obviously seeing your son...
I didn't say any success.
Well, assumed then.
The one thing, you haven't looked at my record and see that...
But having also seen your son graduate from Landmark and succeed in his career, what advice would you give to the students that are either just joining Landmark or about to take that next step in their career or journey?
The first thing I would say would be to be careful. We spent a little time this morning on the career side talking about internships, and I think those are very, very important. But the first and most important thing in my mind, if I am hiring young people, what I want to see are people who are willing to get their hands dirty and basically take on jobs. So if I'm recruiting, what I'm looking for in the resume of a recruit is to see if he worked or she in construction or washing dishes and whatever. And I have to say I was proud of my son this morning when somebody asked the question of him, which is, when you were on campus, what kind of work did you do that we know that the campus can be an internship implication? And he raised his hand and said, do you mind? He said, did washing dishes at the Putney Inn, count for anything? And to me, that's the beginning, most important thing that I think with your, whatever you do in life, the most important thing is that you must have had some opportunity to get your hands dirty and understand what's going on at the grassroots of the company, the enterprise. And it's too often, frankly, forgotten in particularly today's world. We have what I call in today's world the ruling class, who are not only in Washington, but also in big corporations, and they have lost total sight of what the real people need and what their needs are. And this place, to me, is the personification of the understanding of what needs are and how those needs must be addressed. I think my time is up, so